Relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with the super bantamweight contest between unbeaten Ellie Scotney, seasoned veteran Mary Romero. The prediction stuck, and Ellie Scotney managed to win a points decision in dominant fashion, decisive fashion. I wasn't expecting Ellie to out-pressure the pressure fighter, but that's what she did. It's becoming a recurring theme with Ellie Scotney that she gets out there against these formidable and sometimes experienced fighters, and she beats them easier than you expect her to. She makes it look easy. It takes a bit of context to really appreciate what Ellie Scotney does out there. You watch Ellie in action, and she is so obviously having it all her way. She is so obviously winning, but without context, without being familiar with her opponents, you can't truly appreciate what she's doing. Fighters like Elise Gangloff and Maria Cecilia Roma, and more recently Mary Romero. These are fighters that characteristically they can be a handful, but Ellie beats them easy. Makes it look easy. Let's talk about how she did that. You know, Ellie Scotney applied educated pressure on Mary Romero, not to be confused with characteristic pressure fighting. That's more Mary's calling card than Ellie's. But Ellie applied educated pressure in the form of a judicious jab that forced Mary Romero back. Forced Mary onto her back foot, and Mary's no good on her back foot. Mary's no good moving backwards or moving laterally. Her calling card is coming forward and flustering her opponents with volume. She couldn't do that with Ellie. She couldn't do that with Ellie because Ellie's athletic. She's fleet of foot enough that if Mary gets within striking distance, she can take a half step back and shoot a counter shot, and when she's not doing that, she's stepping into her jab. Ellie Scotney is, and most of the time that's what she was doing, shooting that jab and stepping into it, forcing Mary Romero back, forcing her to try and fight on her back foot. She's no good off the back foot. In the exchange, Ellie Scotney had the faster hands of the two, beating Mary Romero to the punch. Ellie whipped some hard right hands to the body, just under Mary Romero's elbow. She hurt her one or two times. I don't think she realized it at first. I don't think she realized that she had Mary Romero hurt to the body the first time out, but as the fight progressed towards the tail end of it, I think Ellie Scotney caught on and she started really laying into Mary. Like I said, the key component in this fight is that Ellie Scotney was effectively pressuring the pressure fighter, beating her at her own game, but it was educated pressure. Not to be confused with what you get from your, according to Hoyle, mid-range to inside pressure fighter that takes chances and wings big shots, big punches. There's a difference. Ellie's pressure on Mary Romero was educated pressure in the sense that she's fundamentally sound, balanced. She's not taking chances and not leaving herself open to be countered. She's definitely coming forward. She's definitely forcing Mary back. That's where she's applying pressure, but she's doing it behind her jab, shooting it and then stepping into it. And I think it was the speed and timing of Ellie's jab that Mary was struggling with. She just couldn't get around it. So as Ellie shoots that jab and steps into it, Mary backs off. Mary's open, left open for other shots, other punches, because Mary ain't no back foot fighter. She looked uncomfortable off the back foot. Mary Romero is a fighter that customarily initiates the exchanges, invades the pocket, and because she couldn't do that with Ellie due to Ellie's speed and timing and variety of punches, because Mary couldn't come forward on Ellie, initiate exchanges the way she normally does with other fighters, fighters like Maria Secchi, fighters like Amy Timlin. Normally, it's Mary Romero that forces the other girl to work. In this situation, it was Ellie Scotney forcing Mary Romero into it. Ellie was forcing Mary to work. The fight was fought at Ellie Scotney's pace. On Ellie's terms, you actually saw Mary Romero start to gas out and get tired. I think those body shots, those right hands to the body, had a lot to do with that. It was a dominant showing for Ellie Scotney, and being honest with you, I didn't really see a round I could give Mary Romero. I mean, this was really something. Yeah, I've never seen Mary Romero get dominated like that. Congratulations to Ellie Scotney for advancing to a professional record of 6 wins, no losses, no draws, and doing so in style. She's winning these fights decisively and characteristically. She's making it look easy. We then come to the men's featherweight contest between Jordan Gill and seasoned veteran, former champion Kiko Martinez. And, you know, this was a fun fight while it lasted. It was, but it only lasted 4 rounds. Things quickly took a turn for the worst for Jordan Gill. Jordan Gill, who started off all right in the first 2 rounds of this thing. He's doing all right, doing everything right in the first 2 rounds, managing the distance, being busy, and fending Kiko Martinez off. Kiko Martinez, a characteristic mid-range. If you know anything about Kiko Martinez, you know he's a mid-range to inside pressure fighter. He has to be, given his physical dimensions. He's a stumpy, albeit very sturdy and heavy-handed fighter. He has to crowd the other guy because 9 times out of 10, the other guy's a bigger, longer fighter than he is. And he applied a lot of pressure on Jordan. Jordan was able to manage it for the first 2 rounds. I believe it was in the second round where Kiko drew blood over Jordan Gill's right eye. The pressure started to get to Jordan. Finally caught up to him in the third. He was dropped 2 times in the third round. Early in the round and later on in the round towards the tail end of it. And Kiko Martinez closed the show in fourth. 2 more knockdowns. Jordan Gill got dropped 4 times.
He's a bloody mess by the time that this thing was over.
Jordan Gill, who was coming right off of a dramatic come-from-behind win, come-from-behind victory, come-from-behind knockout over Kareem Guerfi in his last outing. And Kiko, who was coming off that knockout loss to Josh Warrington, going into this thing, I started to wonder if Kiko's punch resistance was beginning to wane because Josh Warrington isn't a characteristically heavy-handed guy, but he did stop Kiko. Based on that, going into this fight, I started to wonder if Kiko's punch resistance was beginning to wane. Is he a shot fighter? And he didn't look like a shot fighter to me. Not slapping Jordan Gill up and down the ring and dropping him 4 times throughout the course of this 4-round fight. That's how long it lasted. It only lasted 4 rounds. Kiko still got it. Kiko still got some of the heaviest hands in the featherweight division. And you know what they say. You know what the old saying is, and you know how it goes. Power is the last thing to go. At 36 years old, Kiko Martinez still applies world-class pressure and has world-class power. And this wasn't just for the EBU title, it was an IBF eliminator. That's saying that this fight was a step in the direction of the winner of Warrington versus Lopez. That's what it was. Eventually, Kiko Martinez's characteristic pressure fighting was able to get through on Jordan Gill. He was able to get through with some hard shots, and he quickly started to come apart at the seams. Kiko still packs a very big punch. Jordan Gill started off all right, seemed to be in control of the situation, but quickly lost control of it as soon as he got a taste of Kiko's power. Looking forward, this being an IBF eliminator, one would think that Kiko's got his sights set on a potential Josh Warrington rubber match, or maybe he targets the Lopez kid if Lopez beats Warrington. And I think he can. I think he will. I think Lopez is going to win that fight, but oddly enough, Kiko doesn't seem interested in the winner of that fight. He actually mentioned Lee Wood by name. Lee Wood, who's supposed to be in negotiations for a Leo Santa Cruz fight, those negotiations quickly going sour. You get the sense that what we might end up seeing is Lee Wood versus Kiko Martinez in the United Kingdom, as opposed to Lee Wood versus Leo Santa Cruz in the United States. Eddie Hearn also mentioned the Mauricio Lara fight, post-fight, but for Kiko Martinez, an aging former champion, he stands to gain absolutely nothing against Mauricio Lara, and his chances of victory, not going to beat around the bush, he probably likes his chances against Lee Wood a lot more than he likes his chances against Mauricio Lara. Probably figures he can make more money in that fight as well. In Nottingham, Lee Wood's neck of the woods. Kiko Martinez, a fan favorite and one of the most resilient fighters the featherweight division has seen in the last couple of years. He's back in the winner's bracket. He's still putting it on, guys, and taking him out. Congratulations to him. We then come to the main event of that same card, the undisputed lightweight title fight between the champion, Katie Taylor, and the then unbeaten challenger, Karen Carabajal. Karen of Argentina. Those Argentines, they're as tough as they come. They're characteristically durable fighters. I think Karen exhibited a lot of durability in last night's fight, but, she was always just a step behind Katie, and that's what I expected. That's what I predicted, that even if Katie isn't quite as fast as she used to be, she's still faster than Karen here today, and Karen will be. Karen's always going to be just one step behind Katie. Katie's got faster feet, faster hands. She may be a little taller than Katie, a little longer, but she's also slower, punches wider, has heavier feet. Doesn't exhibit the same variety of punches, doesn't have the same ring savvy, isn't as battle-tested. And the fight which you saw was Katie Taylor managing the distance on her toes, on the balls of her feet, in and out, 1 and 2 punches at a time, picking away at Karen Carabajal, pot-shotting. She got off a lot of overhand rights on Karen. And because Karen is slower than Katie, she's not able to connect with a counter shot after Katie connects with her own shot. Katie's fast enough that she can get in, do the business, and get back out safely. before Karen can respond.
That's the story of the fight, really. Aside from the occasional burst, the occasional salvo, the occasional flurry.
Aside from the occasional exchange mid-range to inside, when Katie Taylor's on her toes in boxing, there's very little the girl opposite the ring can do about it. I think Katie Taylor started off this fight a bit tense, but after a couple of rounds, she seemed more fluid, more loose and limber.
Light on her toes and hard to catch.
The fighter having the profile of a Katie Taylor, that stature in the sport, it creates an environment to where every time Katie gets out there, there's going to be a bit of tension
and perhaps a bit of nerves, because she did seem tense in the early goings of this thing, but once a couple of rounds passed and she got into the ebbs and flows of the fight, she's all right.
The focus here was just getting Katie Taylor out there to keep her busiest, to not allow ring rust and dust to collect, because they do plan on a big homecoming fight next year, Croker Park.
With or without Amanda Serrano. That's where Katie Taylor's next fight is supposed to be, in Ireland.
So as far as this fight, the fight itself, not a hard fight to score, and not a fight that ever got away from Katie Taylor. I think the onus was on Katie to go out there and show that even though she was in a war earlier this year, that Amanda Serrano showdown, one of the best fights I've ever seen, the onus was on Katie to go out there and show that she might have had a war with Amanda, but she's not yet lost a step. She can still beat an unbeaten up-and-comer like a Karen Carabajal and do so decisively with little resistance, and that's what she did.
In and out, on her toes, 1 and 2 punches at a time, being judicious, being responsible.
She's 36 years old, and at 36 years old, people do start to wonder if you're on the back nine, if you're going to start to lose a step. And even at 36, Katie Taylor is still faster.
She is still faster than the vast majority of fighters. She's still faster than the vast majority of lightweights, noticeably faster than Karen Carabajal,
who is a good, durable, serviceable fighter, but not as streamlined, not as nuanced, and certainly not as battle-tested as Katie. Onward and upward, Katie Taylor advances to a professional record of 22 wins, no losses, and no draws.
6 knockouts.
Onward and upward for Bray Ireland's undisputed lightweight champion and one of the best boxers the sport of boxing has ever seen. Congratulations to Katie Taylor. We then come to the main event of the Top Rank show, the long-awaited, long-anticipated return of double Olympic gold medalist and former 3-division champion, Lomachenko, against unbeaten up-and-comer, the very capable,
durable, and now battle-tested Jermaine Ortiz. And like I said ahead of the fight, like I said in my prediction video, this was not going to be easy.
And anybody who expected it to be either knew absolutely nothing about Jermaine Ortiz or was too lazy and too inept to look at the circumstances. Look at them for what they are and just call it down the middle. In Vasyl Lomachenko, you're looking at a fighter who's in his mid-30s, who hasn't seen action in the last 10, maybe a little over 10 months, whereas Jermaine already fought 2 times in the last 12 months. He already fought 2 times this calendar year. So Jermaine would be sharp.
Sharper, I'd say, than Vasyl Lomachenko. It was Vasyl Lomachenko that had ring rust to shake off, and I think that's what he was shaking off in the early goings of the fight.
I think the only thing about this fight that I misread was I was expecting Jermaine to spend a bit more time fighting out of the southpaw stance, because unless I'm mistaken, he spent a lot of time fighting out of the southpaw stance in his last fight against Jamel Herring. Jermaine Ortiz, he's a switch hitter. He can fight orthodox, he can fight southpaw. And I was expecting him to fight southpaw for this fight, but he spent most of it, not all of it, fighting out of the orthodox stance.
You could see when both men were in the ring, you could see that Jermaine Ortiz is a bigger guy, a noticeably bigger guy than Vasyl Lomachenko. Looked particularly strong in the clinch.
I think people tend to forget that this is the third weight where Vasyl Lomachenko has campaigned. He's not really a true lightweight, but he can fight there because, well, he's good enough to fight there. Elite enough that he can overcome the size advantage that some other fighters have over him. Jermaine Ortiz included, who looked fast and sharp in the early goings of this fight.
I anticipated that he'd be sharp and his movement would give Vasyl Lomachenko some problems, because as Vasyl Lomachenko would try to cut angles on this kid would stay with him and turn with him.
To not allow Vasyl Lomachenko to get off punches from blind spots where this kid can't defend himself. No, Jermaine Ortiz, he was on top of the situation in the early goings of the fight, but he started to fade down the stretch because he's not used to having to work this much at this rate, at this pace. Vasyl Lomachenko, he does set a bit of a feverish pace.
That's a part of how he beats guys. He forces them to work for the majority of the round.
And, those guys might be able to do that in the beginning while they're still fresh. But trying to keep up with this guy round after round proves physically taxing to where they get tired.
And Jermaine Ortiz got tired, started eating a lot of straight left hands, backhands from Vasyl Lomachenko that were snapping his head back. His output slowed down considerably.
Oh yeah, he wasn't throwing anywhere near as much in the last 4 rounds as opposed to what you saw in the first 4 rounds. In the first 4 rounds,
He was a lot busier, a lot sharper too. He was worse for wear by the last 4.
as stated, in the early goings of the match, Jermaine Ortiz showed good balanced approach. Good defense, good offense, good hand speed, good combinations, deep in the pocket, good punches outside the pocket, good footwork, good speed.
To keep up with Vasyl Lomachenko and in spots keep Vasyl Lomachenko off of him. There were several moments like that where Jermaine Ortiz is actually fighting Vasyl Lomachenko off and backing him off.
He was doing all right for a while, he was, but it's the pace that caught up to Jermaine Ortiz. It's the pace.
He wasn't the same guy in the first 4 rounds that he was in the last 4 rounds, whereas it was Vasyl Lomachenko that was gaining momentum and getting stronger as the fight progressed.
7 rounds to 5, Vasyl Lomachenko. That's the look of the fight to me. 7 rounds to 5 in favor of the former champion who had considerable ring rust and dust to shake off. And that's what we saw in the early goings of this thing. Some might feel that Vasyl Lomachenko is no longer the same fighter that he used to be, but I can't make that call off a fight.
Not even saying it's wrong or right to say that. I'm just saying that I can't make that call off a fight where I know the guy was coming off a layoff.
You are either factoring in all these aforementioned factors into the equation, or you're not. There are those out there who choose not to because they have their own agendas and their own biases. But myself, I told you ahead of the fight, this wasn't going to be easy.
If that's what you were expecting, then I don't know what to tell you.
Already seen some of the initial knee-jerk reactions by way of social media. Cries of a robbery. Vasyl Lomachenko's a hype job. I mean, any fight where the guy they don't like has to go in there and work for it.
He's a hype job. It's a robbery.
Irrespective of the circumstances.
He's a hype job. It's a robbery.
Most of those kinds of comments are actually based on that particular individual's own agendas and ignorance, really, because I said this thing ain't gonna be easy. I ain't got no time.
I don't know what you were expecting ahead of the fight. I don't care either.
Seems to me that a lot of these guys made up their minds how they feel about this fighter already, and that's all we're looking at. That's all we're seeing. As far as what I think, I expected that he'd have to work for it.
10 months out of action, shaking off ring rust at 34 years old, I expected this wasn't going to be easy for Vasyl Lomachenko, but he would secure the victory.
Against an unbeaten, ambitious up-and-comer, and that's what he did. Congratulations to him.